Hello, I am Michael Sherlock, CEO of two companies. Shock Your Potential is a global leadership and sales training company, and Kukwa Biz is a global staffing agency, matching talented professionals in Kenya with small businesses around the world. Through our YouTube channel, we seek to motivate and inspire people to excel in their careers and their businesses. And I'm glad you've joined us today for the third of a 10-part series that will help you to get promoted. In part one, we talked about a part of the promotion process that people often overlook or maybe even hide from, determining what you actually want out of your career. You know, it can be easy to jump from position to position for a variety of reasons. But if the next position isn't in line with your long-term goals, you may actually be harming your career. Now, in part two, we covered the top 10 tips for understanding the next job you want and using that knowledge to give you the best chance to get it. And over the course of this 10-part series, we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of promotions. And we're going to explore strategies to help you make your promotion not only more attainable, but also much more satisfying. And that means financially too. Today, we're going to cover my top 10 tips for turning your resume into a powerful marketing tool. Now, you might be asking yourself, Michael, why do I need to worry about my resume? If I'm trying to get promoted at the company I already work for, they're not going to want to see it. Or maybe you're trying to land a promotion at a new company and you might be asking, well, what's the big deal anyway about a resume? I just make sure to add my current information, right? But both those questions may unfortunately keep you from either getting the position you seek or not getting you everything you want when negotiating your compensation package, for instance. Your resume, regardless of if you like it or not, is a critical tool for getting a job, and even more important when trying to land a promotion. Now, most people think about their resume as a list of their positions and degrees broken down to bullet points that describe both. But a resume is much, much more important. Now, here's going to be, the part that you're probably going to go, oh boy, because what I'm going to advise, if at all possible, is that you hire a resume expert. I know. Yes, I know. I'm talking about an expense you may not even want to take on, especially if you're looking for a promotion in your current company and you're not even sure if you need a current resume. But finding the right resume expert does more for you than just simply making sure your resume looks pretty, let me tell you. They have the experience and the current knowledge. Current, that's the important part, about resume formats, HRISs, which stands for Human Resource Information Systems. Those are the things that scan your resume and can keep you from even being considered. They also know about current trends in the marketplace and hiring. They can also help with some information about what your, social profile, for instance, on LinkedIn says about you, which, we've covered before, and that's important stuff. But mostly they're going to tell you and help you with things that you're probably not even aware of. And one of the greatest benefits that I found is when I worked with a resume expert many, many years ago, several times, is that she really helped me actually to kind of dive farther into my jobs of my past and pull out the really important information so that I could use facts and figures and percentages, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that really made a compelling story about my background. She helped me to uncover some memories I did not remember that I had, and that is invaluable. So if you're seeking a position in a new company, their help can also mean the difference of even getting your resume through the software filters. Remember that HRIS that I said? Because you want to have certain keywords that get you to go through and not be stopped and filtered out. I've worked with an excellent resume expert whom I highly recommend, and we're going to put her information in the notes for this episode here on YouTube channel. So what's the goal? The goal is to make your resume work for you, as well as provide you with detailed examples of why you should be the top pick. See, that's why this is important, even if you're looking at your same company, is that by going through the process that we're going to talk about, you're going to uncover some things that will help you be able to strengthen your case for that promotion. So here we go. Here are my top 10 tips for ensuring that your resume becomes a powerful marketing tool for your career. Number one, honesty is the only policy. Okay, I know you're like, Michael, I would never fib and fudge on my resume. Okay, come on. Many people have, frankly, most people have. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember a a survey that was done on this probably back in, I'm not going to tell you what era it was because it'll just make me look old, but it said at that point in time that over 85% of people say that they've exaggerated and or outright lied on their resume. Now here, there's no room today for error or exaggeration when it comes to your resume. Gone are those days when you could pad a little here and put a little there and add some details that made you seem a little bit more impressive, because things are much more easily fact-checked, and they are. People are checking, believe me. If you didn't do it, don't put it on your resume. The risk is not worth the embarrassment or, frankly, the potential fallout for you. Tip number 2, trim the fat. Have you ever heard the statement, less is more? This is especially true of your resume. You want to use the fewest and most impactful words that you possibly can. Think about what the hiring manager is really looking for and make sure your resume shows proof of the most important specifics. But don't list everything. We don't want to know that. Each position should highlight 3 to 10 major areas of responsibility that you had and success that you were able to generate. And it should show your progression of skills, experience, responsibility, and progression of outcomes. Tip number 3, use words from the job description. Michael, that sounds familiar. Yes, I am going back to something we talked about in the first episode of this series, and that is making sure you're actually reading the job description. And we're going to use that information here. And yes, I'm actually also asking you, I'm really suggesting very highly, that you create a unique resume for every position that you are seeking, specific to that position, that company, etc. And by doing this, you're actually aligning yourself to more success. Let's talk about this. So to have the best possible outcome, you need to use your resume, which is the paper, look at my air quotes, paper, because it might not be printed out even anymore, tells the best story of your career as it relates directly to the position you want, not that it relates to the things that you did before. Now, it has to highlight those things, but you want it always to be driving towards how what you did before directly impacts what you can do in that next position. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say the job description reads, ideal candidate will have experience managing teams of 12 or more. Then your resume should read something like managed and led team of 15 individuals. That is, as long as it's true. But you see where the specifics are there. Those specifics are in the numbers. We're going to talk about that again in just a minute. But when we have the truth in there and we use the alignment as much as possible, the words we use will come through loud and clear and show us as at least being capable of holding that position. Tip number 4, include an executive summary. Now this should be the first major section of your resume underneath, where you have the header of your name and email and phone number and all that. And it's written pretty much like a professional letter directly to the hiring manager, but it's not a letter. It's one paragraph where you outline in this one paragraph who you are, what you've achieved, and what you stand for. Let me give you mine. This is how mine reads. As CEO of a global leadership and sales training organization, I leverage an extensive background as a sales operations executive and business leader with a highly effective approach to team building and revenue growth. See what I'm doing there? I'm telling you that I've managed people, that money is important to me, that sales are important to me, and that I have executive level experience. So it goes on. For more than 25 years, I've delivered training sessions for audiences up to 1,000 people across the United States and internationally. Following a track record of success in a range of companies, I founded Sherlock Enterprises to help corporate clients and executives build world-class teams and redefine achievement in their business. With an unwavering dedication to excellence, I inspire true passion and confidence in my audiences, backed by practical tools they can apply immediately within their organizations. Now, why do I have a resume, you may ask? Well, sometimes I use it for speaking engagements, but it's also important to keep up for a variety of reasons. For me, even though I plan to be a business owner for a long time, I use it sometimes when I get invited to be considered for a board position or an advisory board position. Sometimes I'm bidding on contracts. Keeping my resume up to date is important because then you never have to go back and try and remember what else you need to put in there. And every time you hit a major achievement, to list it there, or at least keep a running list so that you know what you want to use later. Tip number 5, include a skills and expertise section. Now, in my case, this comes right after my executive summary. And in mine, this is about specifics about what I bring to the table. I have 3 columns in mine with 7 skills listed in each, so 21 elements. And there's no right or wrong number of elements, but again, more is less. I'd say 30 would be probably overkill. 15 might be the bare minimum. But these skills are best listed with 2-word descriptors. So think things like this: sales leadership, sales force development, recruiting and retention, upselling, cross-selling, process standardization. These are just a few of the examples from mine, but each tells something about you, and they tell what you bring to a new position and or a new company. Tip number 6, don't detail out everything. See, bullet points are your friends, and they should help you to detail out roughly maybe 5 or 6 of your current and past positions. And much like in tip number 2, where we discussed trimming the fat, I don't need to know that you organize the annual Christmas party unless you're actually seeking a job where you are going to do event planning. But let's say you are looking to become an office manager. And in your last position, even though you weren't the office manager, you were responsible for ordering and managing office supplies, for instance. That information is really important and valuable. So think about what's important and what's not. What's not, take it out. What is, make sure that it is really a power punch. You know, if you've had more than 6 positions in your career, then you may also want to narrow it down. And at that point in time, maybe just simply list them with bullet points with the company name, your position, and the years of your employment there. See, you don't want to date everything if you have a very long, extensive career, because unfortunately, I'm learning this as I get older, not that I'm trying to get a job, but it can actually be a detriment. I don't even include the date of my bachelor's degree on my resume. If somebody asks for it, I will certainly tell them. But it was a long time ago, and I don't necessarily need to have them learn all of that on one piece of paper before making a consideration to talk to me. Tip number 7, use numbers and percentages where appropriate. All right, imagine this. Managed team of more than 75 sales professionals versus managed sales team. Generated more than 10 million in sales annually. Exceeded sales quota by more than 25% for the past 2 years. How about that versus consistently achieved budget? Consistently exceeded budget. See, using the numbers and percentages is incredibly powerful. And although all those statements may be true, the use of the numbers and percentages, when accurate and when they're impressive, tells a much more compelling story about why you will be the best choice. Tip number 8, manage white space appropriately. What is white space? Well, we're going to talk about it. So white space is that literal white space on a page where there's no writing. So there's a little bit of a break in the action. It gives your eyes a little bit of a rest. Imagine looking or reading at the most, heavily invested book with lots and lots of data and lots of numbers, or think about, getting the dictionary, the actual original dictionary, which was an actual book, and reading those things. If you're that old like me, it gets overwhelming and a little exhausting on your eyes. And when you have white space, it not only breaks it up, but it allows people to see things much more easily. So I was thinking about this. I have seen thousands of resumes in my career, literally. I'm not making that up. It's a little exhausting. I kind of wish I was making that number up. I have seen resumes that are 12 pages long. I've seen resumes 1 page long. I've seen a handwritten resume. That one really blew my mind, and a lot more. And here's the thing, managing white space is about making sure it looks attractive. I mean, this is actually like your own brochure. It's your own marketing tool. So if it isn't visually appealing to you, It won't be to the hiring manager either. And if you're not sure, then this is a great time to ask somebody else to review it. Now, this also means that it's not just visually pretty, but that there are breaks between sections, that there are spaces between paragraphs, that there are normal margins instead of narrow margins. So it's critical that the flow of the document really be easy to read. That also gets to the elements of, how many things break between pages and trying not to have different positions break between pages. It's about the layout and the professional design that you may or may not be able to accomplish on your own. Sometimes needs a little tweaking, but don't overlook this fact. It is critically important. Tip number 9. Now, this is going to be unique to some people that are watching, but the tip number 9 is tailor to the company or the country. And what I mean by this, let's talk about company first, is that different companies have different kinds of environments. So if you work for a casual company, you might have a little bit different kind of resume than a really high-end Wall Street, firmly buttoned up company. But it doesn't mean you need to change too much. You just need to know and be aware to see if there's anything different you should accommodate. But by country, this is something that I've become aware of the last couple of years. And I thought it's worth mentioning because it can be impacted by different cultures. So my team, as you all know, are all based in Kenya. And when I first started getting resumes for people to work with me, I was shocked by a couple of things because some of the information used normally and usually in Kenya and resumes are things that we just simply would never, ever do in the US. And let me give you some examples. So, and it's more on a personal information. And because, especially within the US and many other countries, we're very cognizant of things about discrimination and making sure we're not making hiring decisions on the wrong reasons. Here's a few things just to make sure without a doubt that you avoid. So do not include your marital status, your religious affiliation, your political affiliation, or any private data like passport numbers. Way, way, way back in the day, and I mean way back in my day, people actually used to put their social security number on their resumes. That's not a good idea. We know that we don't want to have all that information now. Leave out specific references to your gender. And what I mean by that is, not saying something like, I am a married female, but you should, if you are comfortable, list your pronouns. That is one of the greatest changes that I've seen. It's an incredibly positive change for self-description. And especially like being a woman with a man's name, it's great to say Michael Sherlock, she, her. Then you know what my pronouns are, that I identify female, and that way there's no question about it. But the only reason I really bring this up is that I'm finding that other countries have different cultures in terms of coming to resumes. So my last line on that is, before you submit a resume to a certain company, a different country, a different culture, make sure that you've taken time to research the norm for resume format in those areas. That way you make sure that you are on the same footing as every other candidate they are considering. And finally, tip number 10, dun, 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 make it teacher worthy. Yes, I was a former English teacher in my life. My degree is in elementary education, as well as high school English lit. This English teacher has to remind you to please, 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 please scan for misused words, misspellings, missed punctuation, inappropriate punctuation, font alignment, so many more. Here's the thing, a wrong word, a typo, a missed or incorrect punctuation tells the hiring manager that you are not detail oriented. Oh, it's a tough one. I'll give you a couple just real quick hacks though to help you do this. Because if you're like me, I hate proofreading. But the first is, once you feel like you really think you have it done, take your resume, read it again, word for word with the last word, and go backwards. Because when you look at every word separately, backwards and out of their normal flow, you will catch more mispronunciation or miswords, misspellings, and punctuations. Then the second hack is, read it one more time, but read it out loud, forward to back. You'll know whether or not you're missing things there. And the third hack is actually just take it to somebody else that you trust and have them read it for the final. So 3 little hacks there to make sure you've got it. You want to treat your resume as if it was going to be something as important as your PhD thesis. See, you wouldn't turn that in with mistakes. So you want to make sure that it would be ready for any teacher to give it an A+. Now, by this time, you're probably wondering, Michael, when are we going to get to the actual asking for the promotion? Well, hold on to your hats because we start that next week. Next episode, we're going to dive into the pitch. We're first going to talk about pitching your promotion to your current employer. The next week, we're going to cover pitching to a new company. Both episodes are going to focus on making you sure how to deliver the best case so that you stand out before and well advance of the actual interview. So thank you so much for joining us again today. I am looking forward to seeing you guys all again next week. And as always, if you like what you're hearing here, hit the subscribe button, hit that little like button, leave a comment. We get back on all of them. And as always, we are here to help you shock your potential.